In the golden age of piracy, only one man possessed the raw power to fight the Pirate King, Gol D. to a dead draw. His name was Edward Newgate, though the world learned to fear him as Whitebeard. He consumed the Tremor fruit, granting him the terrifying ability to literally shatter the air itself. With a single punch, he generated massive shockwaves and summoned tsunamis capable of leveling entire islands. The Marines openly admitted he held the power to destroy the world. This chart illustrates the staggering scale of his threat. While high-tier pirates commanded bounties in the hundreds of millions, Whitebeard's bounties sat at an astronomical 5,046,000,000 berries. It was the highest active bounty, reducing contemporaries to rounding errors. Roger's execution left a vacuum at the peak of the pirate world. For over 20 years, Whitebeard stood at the threshold of the One Piece as the undisputed ruler of the oceans. Yet he never made a move to claim the treasure. He sat before the empty throne and simply watched the era passing by. This refusal to claim global dominion was rooted in the extreme poverty of his birthplace. To find the logic behind his restraint, we have to look past the legendary monster and into the deprivation that defined his youth. Newgate was born on Sphinx, an island completely ignored by the world government. Because the local citizens were too poor to pay the mandatory protection tax known as the Heavenly Tribute, they were abandoned by the law. The island deteriorated into a violent, impoverished wasteland. Growing up as an orphan in that environment fixed his sights on a goal his peers found laughable. While young pirates set sail dreaming of gold and infamy, Newgate was vocal about his true ambition. He wanted a family. He spent his early career witnessing the alternative firsthand. He sailed with the infamous Rocks Pirates, a crew notorious for their internal murder and absolute lack of camaraderie. That environment served as a cautionary tale, reinforcing his commitment to a different kind of crew. By the time he formed his own fleet, childhood deprivation had permanently fixed his definition of value. To Edward Newgate, material wealth was a tool to facilitate human connection. In his prime, Whitebeard was an unstoppable force of nature. He combined the devastating shockwaves of his Tremor fruit with a massive supreme-grade Naginata, backing it all up with a mastery over Haki, the spiritual energy used to enhance attack and defense. He weaponized this terrifying arsenal for an unusual purpose: stability. When slavers ravaged Fishman Island, Whitebeard didn't send an army to stop them. He simply declared the island as his territory. His reputation alone was enough to end the slave trade there overnight. While ruling a vast empire, Whitebeard lived modestly, often seen drinking cheap sake and tethered to medical equipment. His share of the crew's riches flowed directly back to Sphinx, paying for a peaceful village and basic infrastructure in a land the world government had abandoned. He actively recruited outcasts, orphans, and people the world had cast aside. In return for a place on his ship, he only asked that they treat each other as brothers and call him Pops. Whitebeard used the threat of global destruction as a shield for the world's most vulnerable people, functionally operating as a private welfare state. This paternal devotion put him on a collision course with the world government. When the Marines captured his son, Portgas D. Ace, they scheduled a public execution at Marineford to draw Whitebeard into a final, decisive conflict. To save a single crew member, Whitebeard mobilized 1,600 men and 43 allied fleets from the New World, launching a head-on siege against the entire combined Marine military. During chaos, the Marines manipulated one of Whitebeard's allied captains, Squard, into believing he was being betrayed. In a moment of panic, Squard drove a massive sword straight through Whitebeard's chest. Rather than strike Squard down, Whitebeard dropped to his knees and pulled the weeping pirate into a hug. He chided Squard for being foolish enough to be tricked, and offered him complete forgiveness. The sacrifice of his empire and his own life at Marineford proved that his commitment to his found family was the defining principle of his reign. He faced the final battle at his absolute physical limit. He absorbed 267 sword wounds, 152 bullets, 46 cannonballs, and fatal magma buns. Despite 465 catastrophic injuries, his body refused to fall. When his heart stopped, Edward Newgate died standing upright. The reverse side of his body carries the most telling detail. His back is entirely pristine. In 72 years of piracy, he never received a single wound from retreating, because he never once turned his back on a fight or abandoned his children. With his final, defiant breath, he roared to the entire world that the legendary treasure, the One Piece, is real. For 2 decades since Roger's death, the world government dismissed the One Piece as a myth to discourage a new generation of outlaws. They intended for the slaughter at Marineford to break the pirate spirit. Instead, the only man alive with the credibility to have known Roger personally used his death to validate the legend, instantly undoing years of marine propaganda and forcing a new wave of pirates out to sea. Edward Newgate's life suggests that strength is found not in the power to shatter the world, but in the capacity to carry an entire era on one's shoulders.